for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. I'm Jake Watroba, and joining me today is Arman Kafai and Joseph Lowery of The Athletic. On today's show, we talk a little MLS and discuss whether the Philadelphia Union are Eastern Conference contenders, is there reasons for concern for LAFC, and are Minnesota United and Real Salt Lake capable of causing noise in the Western Conference playoffs? You can follow the show on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. We always enjoy your feedback and comments, so continue to send them in. Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's get to today's show. Fellas, what's going on? We're going to do a little MLS talk today.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I
love some MLS talk.
You are the biggest MLS fanboy on the show, Armand.
I'm not.
Actually, Steven has really become the MLS fanboy of the three of us.
He watches the Revs.
He watches the Revs, and then he'll text us about teams that aren't the Revs, and it's like, wow, Steven's really taken MLS. He embraces it now.
Yeah.
Before I used to get stupid texts about Arsenal signing a player, or why Unai Emery's going to manage them to third place instead of fourth place, or something to that effect. But now
now it's Messi to Inter Milan. Oh my God, Inter Miami.
Right.
In my mind, as long as Steven's not talking about the Patriots, that's a win for all of us. So I think that's a win.
Here's the thing: I did not think Joseph Lowery would hit our Patriots quota for the episode, and I'm surprised. Here I am, shocked. I am painted shocked.
You're welcome.
I'm very shocked. I'm almost as shocked as Joseph Lowery was last night seeing a fan throw beer at players. You want to tell a player a little experience on Sunday?
Sure.
Or Saturday?
Yeah. Saturday and Sunday. It was an all-nighter, baby. I was out at the Phoenix Rising game and had some fans throw beers on the field. They had to call the game about 10, 15 minutes early. Several of us in the media just kind of waited in the press box until around midnight for them to tell us, whether the result was going to stand or not, or what the sanctions were going to be. So it was a wild time, everybody.
There you have it.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, just want to let you know, Phoenix Rising are the hottest team in American soccer with 20 wins in a row?
20 straight wins.
That's insane. And the great thing is, Jake, we'll see them in MLS next year when they get promoted, right?
Armand, you're getting the Pro Rel for USA guys going by saying stuff like that. You're getting Tinfoil Ted going.
Anything for Tinfoil Ted.
You're a big Ben Fast guy, aren't you?
Oh, huge Ben Fast guy, if you haven't know. I love how he connected Pro Rel USA with Donald Trump at one point. But
hey, when you wear tinfoil hats, you got to connect dots that shouldn't be connected. So, but listeners, we got a packed show for you today. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia Union LAFC 1-1 draw, number 1 in the West versus number 2 in the East. We also are going to take a look at Minnesota United beating RSL 3-1 on Sunday night. But first, before we jump into all of that, it's time for Armand's written apology to Joseph Lowery about the Philadelphia Union. Armand, what do you have to say to Joseph?
About the paper. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Dear Joseph Lowery, a.k.a. at Joe and Cleats on Twitter, I am sorry for laughing and saying that the Philadelphia Union would be a fake 1 seed. I genuinely did not believe they would be this good. But here I am sitting here sweating really badly right now upstairs. And they are for real. I'm sorry, Joseph. They are not a fake 1 seed. They are not a fake 2 seed. They are not a fake 3 seed. They are a good seed. So there's my written apology at Joe and Cleats.
That was beautiful, Armand. That was lovely.
Go Phoenix Rise. I don't know. Yeah, I was wrong. The Union are honestly superb to watch. I've watched them the last couple of weeks, and it shocked me, to be honest with you. It really has shocked me. The atmosphere at Town Energy Stadium has been fantastic. The players seem to thrive off that. Aronson has been great. Chibuko has been great. Sergio Santos has been great. We could go down the list of just how good have they been. And it's so fascinating to me watching the standings. And it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to play the Philadelphia Union, especially at Town Energy. Maybe I don't. I mean, Joseph, you're right, man. You were on the hype train before they were cool, so you're the hipster.
Oh, that's everything I want it to be. Thank you. But no, I completely agree. I think I still, as narcissistic as it sounds, I think I still agree with kind of what I said at the beginning of the year. They're flexible in a lot of ways that not a lot of other MLS teams are. They have some depth at a lot of key spots. They have good center back depth, good forward depth, decent midfield depth. Like they have the pieces to be just a real pain to play against. And I think you look at them, you look at Philly, you look at NYCFC, and you look at Atlanta United in the Eastern Conference. I think you can realistically see sort of any one of those teams making a real run and winning the Eastern Conference championship and facing off with LAFC in the West for the MLS Cup. So it's going to be an interesting playoff race at the top of the Eastern Conference to see kind of how the seeding ends up. But yeah, I think Philly are just as legit now as they were at the beginning of the year.
Now, guys, 2 weeks ago, we asked each other if the win against Atlanta was a statement win for the Union. And all three of us, not you, Joseph, Steve, and John Duran, we all said, let's pump the brakes a little bit. It's just one win. Atlanta wasn't at full strength. That was their 8th game in the month of August. The Union had only played 5. Tired legs for Atlanta. We were making excuses for Atlanta. We were, trying to just calm down Union fans a little bit. We're just trying to knock them down a peg or two. Like, let's not get too high here. Good win, but, calm down a little bit. But now that they've drawn league leaders at home in LAFC 1-1, I think my perception has been changed of the Union. And this was it was albeit a draw. I think this was a massive result. And Jim Curtin, manager of Philadelphia Union, agreed. Here's his post-game comments. With their best 11 players on the field, which they had tonight, they've embarrassed teams. I feel better passing that test than the Atlanta win because that's a team that can put 6 goals in if you're not on your game like we were tonight. And I thought Philly was in the game, was on their game, and the couple of matches I've watched them recently, they beat the Eastern Conference favorites, Atlanta. Now, maybe you want to throw NYCFC in there as well as Eastern Conference favorites, but for my money, it's Atlanta. They have just drawn what looks to be the best team in league history, or at least they're on pace to be that. And I think that this team can play with anyone. They got Kasper Shibuko up top, the guy scoring left and right. Their back line defending looks great. Andre Blake was my man of the match on Saturday night, making 3 saves, 3 big saves too. I thought LAFC had a lot of good chances to win that game, and I thought Andre Blake did a great job of denying LAFC any opportunity to steal 3 points away. And Arman, you've kind of issued your apology to Joseph here, but should the Union be taken seriously as Eastern Conference contenders?
Yes, I think you kind of have to be. I mean, you look at what they've done. You look at, they're currently, 5 points back of NYCFC with 4 games to go. They play NYCFC, guys, let's not forget, on decision day, which could be critical to see who gets that first round bye or, one of those top seeds. They have to be taken seriously because what they're doing right now, it's not like, maybe it feels like, okay, it was an early start and they kind of slowed down and they're like sitting at where DC is, 5th place. Okay, let's not take them as seriously. But I think they should be taken seriously. These 2 performances, while at home, they will be at home in the playoffs. They can, from what it looks like, these are important wins and they show. And I was really impressed how they played against the LAFC. I don't know about you guys, but I watched that game, and they never really seemed to go down after getting punched in the face. They got punched in the face and just got back up. Like, okay, cool. Here we are. Bella, I mean, obviously he's coming back off his hamstring injury, but it's not like he was, anything amazing that match. And they came on the attack. Brendan Aronson had a great chance. I think in the 22nd minute, Shibuko was putting on that pressure. I mean, Ilsinho off the bench. I mean, that guy is one of the best super subs I think you can have in Major League Soccer right now. Yes, they have to be taken seriously. To watch the way they play, the way that Jim Curtin has them set up, let's not forget the not so hot guys, the not so sexy guys like Kai Wagner, a left back came from a German third division. Ernst Tanner brought him in, and he's been such a great signing at left back. I mean, you have Jack Elliott in the center back, along with Mark McKenzie. We can go down this roster, and it's like you have veterans. They have, I think, the right combination of youth and vets in order to compete, right? They're not too young, like you might say in FC Dallas is, and they're not too old, like, some other teams across MLS might be. I think they're just that perfect amount of youth and experience, and I personally think they can compete with anyone. I don't know if they can do it on NYCFC's baseball field, which is why I think, competing for that home field advantage is going to be so important for them, but I think they can do it especially at home.
Now, Joseph, before you jump in, I just wanted to just talk about how good Ilsinho has been for the Union. 925 minutes played this season. 5 goals and 8 assists. He's been a super sub. Every time I've watched the Union play, he comes on, and it's almost like a momentum swing for the Union, just how good this guy is. But Joseph, what are your thoughts? Is this team a legit Eastern Conference contender?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I've changed my mind on that at all from the beginning of the season. I think the Union are just as legit now as they ever have been, and they're going to cause the rest of the Eastern Conference playoff field and potentially the Western Conference champions some real problems in the playoffs.
I agree. I think this team can win the East. Actually, I'm not going to peg them as the favorites. For my money, I'm still going to say Atlanta is the favorites, but I do believe this team can beat Atlanta and this team can beat NYCFC. Like I said, they have great. The defending is great. I don't think they're no slouch defensively. And going forward with Shibuko, Pico, they got a number of Ilsinho, Sergio Santos is a good sub off the bench as well. They have guys that can put the ball in the back of the net, and I think they're going to cause a lot of problems for teams once the playoffs roll around. But let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk LAFC. Since drawing the Galaxy at home on August 25th, LAFC is 0-1-3. And Joseph, let's start with you. Any reason for concern if you're an LAFC fan?
I think just in the timing of these mixed results, there's a little bit of concern. It's not an ideal timeline. Just before you're hitting the home stretch of the regular season, right before the playoffs. If we don't see them, get a couple of results, I think that wears on players and the coaches mentally a little bit. But just looking at the quality of play we're still seeing on the field, if we look back at that Minnesota loss at home, they still created the vast majority of the chances. They struggle to break the final piece of Minnesota's low block, and that's understandable. That happens to teams all the time. So I'm not concerned necessarily. The timing I don't think is ideal, but then again, there's never an ideal time to start dropping points, from a coaching perspective. So I'm not concerned particularly about LAFC. I still think they're the best team in the Western Conference, best team in the league, and one of the best teams of all time. But yeah, it's not ideal. It's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, I was watching. We're going to talk about this, the RSL Minnesota game. And the only thing I could think of was, damn, LAFC is better than both these teams significantly, and LAFC will be playing at home. And I know it's crazy to think because Minnesota beat LAFC and Minnesota was on the road, but I feel like that result was a little bit fluky. And I mean, I look at the rest of Vela not being in there, Vela just coming back into the lineup. Look, I mean, he's an MVP. He is the MLS MVP this year. If I have a vote, I will vote for him. Like that. He's been that good. And look, if you lose that guy, it kind of sucks, and you have to build your way into it. I asked this question. I think I asked it last episode as well. I asked the question to my buddy watching Traffic Goins. If Vela's hurt, you clinch the number 1 seed. Okay, you get Supporters Shield. You'll get the Supporters Shield basically. I mean, at this rate, they will get it. I think. Do you You have a CCL berth. I mean, why not? Why do you have to push Vela so much if you don't have to? And I think it's one of those things where his team is kind of cruising into the playoffs, which might not be good because you don't want to always cruise into playoffs. You want to have a nice win here or there or something like that. But I think they're cruising into the playoffs, and then I think then they're going to kick it back on. But I mean, honestly, I'm not sold in the rest of the Western Conference. I think LAFC is so much better in the rest of the Western Conference that, I mean, these results don't even faze me, to be honest with you.
Arman, I agree. And if you're an LAFC fan, you would rather have this bad run of form happen end of August, beginning of September, than you would beginning of October going into the playoffs. Look, it's a 4-game sample size in a 34-game schedule. Small sample size. Do you want to drop games? Do you want to drop points? No. No coach wants that. But again, no Vela for 2 of those 4 matches, the Minnesota match and the Orlando City match. And I don't think there's no shame in drawing 1-1 to Philadelphia Union away. I mean, look, the Union are second in the East right now. We just talked about how all 3 of us believe they're an Eastern Conference title contender right now. And look, I just don't believe there's anything for LAFC fans to be panicking about. This team, like Armand said, when watching RSL and Minnesota United, is damn, these 2 teams are not nearly as good. They do not come close to being as good as LAFC. And while Minnesota United did get the win at Bank of California Stadium, like Joseph said, a lot of teams are going to have problems breaking down that low block that Minnesota United played for the duration of that match. So, but on the flip side of the coin, that's what a lot of teams are going to be doing once the playoffs are here, is bunkering down and hoping to keep LAFC off the score sheet and subsequently getting a goal themselves and steal a win at the arguably the toughest place to play in MLS right now. Now, this is kind of a dumb question, so I'm going to ask it anyways, but we all know the answer to this. But Vela makes his return this weekend. We all know how important he is to the league and how important of a player he is in general. He's going to be the MVP. But for LAFC, how important is a guy like Carlos Vela? Okay, let me phrase it this way. Is LAFC capable of winning MLS Cup without Carlos Vela? How about that?
No. Joseph, I don't know how to answer that, but I would say no. Not even close.
I think yes, but go ahead.
Oh. You're not going to expand?
No, I was going to let you finish first. I just had to get that out there.
Oh. I mean, my answer is in the results.
Yeah, that's fair. I think from my perspective, what Bob Bradley has built and what the front office in LAFC has built is designed to be more than just one player. And we see the impact that Carlos Vela has, and that's undeniable, right? I think the odds of them winning MLS Cup go down significantly if he's not available to play. But I mean, when your other 2 wingers are Brian Rodriguez and Diego Rossi, are you seriously going to tell me, I can't fathom like the possibility that they wouldn't still be technically capable of winning MLS Cup. They might be missing. I mean, they'd be missing their leader and their top goal scorer and their top playmaker. But the guys they have, I mean, Brian Rodriguez is a Uruguayan international. Diego Rossi is a very talented guy who's I don't have any info on this, but is likely to get sold to Europe at some point over the next season and a half. So I think they still have the talent with or without Vela. Do the odds go down? Absolutely. Is it, much less likely? Yeah, it's not as likely, but I think it's still entirely possible.
I agree with Joseph on that. That team, even without Vela, they're stacked. That team is stacked. Like Joseph just said, Diego Rossi's gonna go play in Europe at some point, whether that's this winter or whether that's next summer or the following winter. He's gonna get sold to Europe. Brian Rodriguez ripped the U.S. apart last week in the 1-1 draw. He showed that he can be problems. I just think that you can't sit here and just say Carlos Vela is the only cog that makes LAFC go. They are stacked with talent. They are stacked with talent. Now, I'm not trying to diminish Vella's importance to the team, but yes, they could win MLS Cup without Carlos Vela, Arman. I'm sorry. But
okay.
Let's talk about two teams that can't win MLS Cup. Let's talk about Minnesota United and RSL.
Okay.
How was that for a transition? Minnesota United knocks off RSL at home 3-1. A brace from Darwin Quintero sees the Loons grab all 3 points. Minnesota United now sits third in the Western Conference standings with 48 points, and RSL fall to fourth in the West. Now, guys, I'm going to ask you a two-part question here. Okay? Minnesota United seems very Jekyll and Hyde right now, with a loss earlier in the week to Houston and then beating LAFC away 2 weeks prior. RSL doesn't ever appear to ever be impressive whenever I watch them. I'm not sure about you guys. Maybe you can interject and say, no, I love the way RSL plays. They're just this fun team to watch. You're missing this, Jake. How serious do either of you take these clubs heading into the playoffs? Let's start with Minnesota United. Arman, what do you think?
You know how serious I take Minnesota United, right? I don't think I'm serious at all. This might be a really negative, but like I said in the discussion about LAFC, I just feel like hasn't been a team in the Western Conference that I sit there and I'm impressed with their football and I say, wow, they can compete with LAFC. They all seem the same from 2 through 8. I guess the only team you can really say is the Galaxy, yeah? The Galaxy have beat them multiple times. But I guess 2 through 8, they're kind of the same. Like, okay, they have a huge win one week and a huge letdown, right? I mean, you see a team like, Minnesota, we can talk about them. Yeah, they beat LAFC, they lose to Houston, they beat RSL. A team like Dallas, they beat Minnesota, okay, while shorthanded. They beat Houston, they beat Cincinnati. They come back, they get destroyed by Chicago. I mean, we could go down the list. RSL beat Seattle 3-0 at one point, and they lose to Minnesota 3-1. It's all a huge circle of just like, oh, wow, well, we lose to you lose to me. Minnesota United, to me, I don't know, because we see, maybe Adrian Heath can learn from his mistakes, but we saw him bench Darwin Quintero in the U.S. Open Cup match. That didn't work. He played scared. That didn't work. And it almost worked out in a lucky way for him, though. It almost did in a very lucky way. Against a team like LAFC, you can't play scared. You have an organized game plan like they did in the match at the bank. But I don't think they can sustain that. And look, if you're a team like a Dallas, like even RSL, like a Portland, it's not like Minnesota has beat these teams like, wow, we've crushed them. They've barely squeaked by these teams at home. All these games are toss-ups. We see it. And that's why I'm really bullish on Minnesota United. I feel like they've gotten lucky a lot. I mean, I've been on the record saying they're one of the more luckier teams in MLS. Now, that win against RSL wasn't lucky. I'll say that was a good game. That was a great game from them. But overall, some of these things that happen are just so lucky. Like the Dallas game. I mean, you have Ziegler miss his only PK of the year, like against Manone. You have Dallas, who was taking the game towards Minnesota. I mean, like, again, I'm making that as a reference because I watched Dallas a lot, but I mean, San Jose, but I think it was the year before or just before they got red hot. They dropped points against Minnesota. I mean, all these results, I feel like they're just very lucky. I watched them play. It's not like their football has been, whoa, knock my socks off kind of football. It's just been, okay, they win at home, which is why it's important to get the number 2 seed. If they get the 2 seed or a high seed or something like that, they'll be fine. But I mean, away from home, I'm not confident. This same team lost to the Dynamo, man. The Dynamo were a hot mess. They still are a hot mess. They lost to like what? It's tough for me to buy into the hype of Minnesota United.
And I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. I think you look at the really anywhere after the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and there's a lot of confusion and a lot of teams that could do things or could really just fall completely flat when the playoffs come around. I think while there is some truth, even just from an analytics standpoint, of the sort of fluky nature of Minnesota United's victory over LAFC and some of their other games this season, there is something to be said for, especially in an elimination style tournament, for a team that has those results under their belt and who has had that experience of playing in those games and finding ways to win. As a guy who kind of spends most of the time looking at tactics, I completely agree with your premise, Arman, that it's not necessarily the best style of soccer, or there's not ever necessarily a super high level of consistency or patterns, identifiable traits, things like that. But sometimes I've come to learn and believe that sometimes soccer can be a little bit more than that. When you've got a guy like Mason Toye who seems to be in great form, having a hot goal scorer heading into the postseason is a real asset for Minnesota United. So do I think they're a favorite in the West? Of course not. No. But could they do some damage conceivably, like you said, especially if they end up at home? Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a real shot for them to cause some problems for other teams in the West. And maybe there's an argument to be made that they're the next best team in the Western Conference after LAFC.
I'm not going to take the homerism or the homer approach here on this one. I know you're all expecting it. Someone's got to fill in, I know Steven's on here to go rah, 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 New England Revolution, rah, 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 New England Patriots. I'm not going to do that with Minnesota United. Do I think they're capable of winning a playoff match? Yes, I do think they're capable of winning one round in the playoffs. If they drew Dallas or if they drew the Timbers and it's a home match, yes, I do think they are capable of winning. I do think that their run in the U.S. Open Cup in an elimination tournament was a good experience for them, and I think that is an experience that they can carry over to the MLS playoffs. However, like Joseph said, they really have no tactical identity. There's nothing about them that you can point to and say, oh, they do this. I mean, I watch them all the time, and I can just tell you what Minnesota United likes to do. Maybe this is their tactical identity. I think it's a terrible one, but it might be it. And it's get the ball to Roman Montenegro down the right side and have him just hit crosses in all day. Look, that might be good enough to maybe beat Dallas or Portland or San Jose. They've beaten San Jose twice this year. I just don't believe this team is cut out to win more than a game here or a game there when it really matters the most. I can't envision a scenario, and now look, they went and beat LAFC away. I just can't envision a scenario where they do that again. And I can't envision a scenario where they're going into Seattle and beating Seattle when it matters the most. So, but quickly, let's touch on RSL. Are they a serious contender in the West at all either? Anything they do that makes you think twice about them moving forward?
No, and the lack of a Mike Petke kind of guy. I mean, sure, like just from a coaching standpoint, what he did, he provided experience in a knockout round game. They don't have that. They have a Freddie Juarez, same situation that Dallas would probably have under Luchi Gonzalez, and a first-year coach. I mean, I guess you could even say Adrian Heath, because I don't think he's ever had a playoff game. But overall, it's difficult. I don't see them. They're a very hot and cold team. I feel like they could knock off an LAFC, but they could also just not make the playoffs and miss it entirely. I don't think they'll miss the playoffs. I think they will make it, and I think they'll have a good showing wherever they go. But I don't even see them remotely touching MLS Cup, and it's not because they're bad or anything. They have dynamic players in Rusnak and Savarino. A nice combination of vets and young players. But I mean, overall, I feel like their talent level just isn't there.
RSL, in my mind, is kind of grouped in with the rest of the Western Conference, similar to Minnesota United. They played differently, but they have similar traits in that they don't necessarily dominate games offensively or have a specific defensive trait that they use to smother opposing teams, but they're capable of upsetting anyone kind of at any given time. So in my mind, RSL have a shot to cause some problems in the playoffs for opposing teams, but they're definitely not Western Conference favorites. I think that's kind of the general rational take shared by most people who spend time watching the league and covering the league as well.
I share the same point or same thought as both of you. I think RSL is capable of winning a match at Rio Tinto Stadium. I think that's a tough place to play at altitude. I think that could provide some issues to a visiting team coming in. Rusnak's a nice player. Severino's a nice player, like Arman said. They have some nice pieces on defense, but overall, I just don't think that this team is capable of doing much damage when it matters most. So, but guys, before we wrap up the show, Arman, let's do your 2 stars and 1 catfish for the week.
Yeah, Jake. Gotta talk about my 2 stars, 1 catfish. My star, Giassi's artist. Jake, you like that? a rocket in his goal against LA United to give Columbus a nice result. My star number 2, I give it to 2 guys this time, CJ Sapong and Frankowski from the Chicago Fire. 3 goals combined with some assists and a 4-0 win over FC Dallas, a huge result. And my catfish, sorry FC Dallas fans, the FC Dallas defense. How do you allow 4 goals in the first half? Terrible. I wrote about the defense being good. Well, I guess joke's on me because they were trash on Saturday.
Well, there you have it. Listeners, question of the day at Unc Sam Soccer Pod. We talked about it earlier. Are the Philadelphia Union legit Eastern Conference contenders? Let us know on Twitter at Unc Sam Soccer Pod. You can follow Joseph Lowery on Twitter at Joe and Cleats. You can follow Arman Kafai at Arman Kafai, and you can follow myself at Jake Watroba. Be on the lookout on Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit more MLS, but off the field. Steven will be back for that episode, so make sure you tune in for that. For Joseph and Arman, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys next time.